Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Sam.
Good evening, Thiago. Welcome along,
Welcome.
everyone who's watching, to round 2 of the ACC category for the 2024 Race at Home Championship.
Welcome to Misano. Boy, do we have an exciting race in store for you.
Yes, indeed. So, right, we have 15 minutes of qualifying, so that will go on for the next 15 minutes. 13 minutes left in qualifying, and as
Everyone's taking their own sweet time. They're all taking their own sweet time to get out on track.
A lot of drivers, staying into a lot of drivers opting to stay in the pit, probably looking for the track to ramp up in temperature and for the rubber to build up. And also, of course, just hoping that they get a good slot out on the track as well, so that they don't trip over each other in this session.
Now, Sam, I'm no ACC connoisseur, but at the moment, from what I can see on the on-screen details, I can see that the track details say the track is optimum. Now, I don't know if that can become even more optimum than the current track temperatures, but from what I can see, drivers are starting to file out of the pits, as we're right on board with Shane Wirakun, probably one of the first drivers to go out and try and set a lap time. He has a little bit of traffic on his lap at the moment, with the likes of Kevan Samarajiva making his ACC debut. Kevan is running the Bentley, a very, very interesting car choice to say the least. Sam, from your personal experience, do you feel the Bentley is an optimum car for an actual race run?
Well, it's a difficult one, really, because I don't think I've had much experience with the Bentley, but I'm not sure it's been favored recently. I know in terms of the British cars, I would say the McLaren is one of the better suited cars in ACC and to this track especially. But interestingly, one of the interesting things about ACC is with the BOP, the balance of performance, different cars seem to come to the forefront, and very similar to how GT racing is done in the real world, where BOP changes from race to race. It gives a little bit more jeopardy. So even though you pick your car at the start of the season, you can't change it depending on whether the car is suited to one track or the other. So you have to basically pick a decent all-round car. So I don't know, maybe it's a masterstroke by Kevan to go for the Bentley. But I think the majority of the front runners have opted for more conventional choices like the McLaren, the Lamborghini, the BMWs. And I think the Ford Mustang as well is supposed to be very good around this track.
The Mustang is being listed as one of the most powerful cars to be piloting at the moment. Many of the drivers were not opting to pick the Ford Mustang at the start of the season, such as the driver we see on screen right now, Brian Pereira, recently took a grand slam in the iRacing F4 Championship last Sunday. Currently sits P3 in the ACC Race at Home Championship standings. He's coming into this weekend looking to potentially take the lead of 2 Cmsc Race at Home Championship standings. Brian Pereira opting for the BMW, again another car which a manufacturer which he has raced with in the GT Sport Race at Home Championship a couple years ago. But as we look behind Brian, here is Mohammed Fawzal, one of the fastest drivers on the grid this weekend, running the Ford Mustang. As we were discussing earlier, one of the most powerful cars on the grid. And we also have Tehan Eranga running the same car. They're running the same cars from round 1, which got them through into the top 2 positions of qualifying, with Fausel finishing P4. Unluckily for him, having a stop-go penalty in the race, which resulted in him dropping out from the lead of the race. But nonetheless, the pace was there. As we can see, Tehan Aranga goes to the top of the timesheets with a 34.1. These are just provisional lap times. These are banker lap times the drivers are setting at the moment. These lap times will only get faster. And as we know, potentially, the later you run in qualifying, the later you do your final hot laps, the higher benefits it may reap. As we just saw from Formula 1 qualifying in Spain, Lando Norris, one of the last drivers to set his flying lap times, he's just pipped Max Verstappen to pole position in Barcelona. Will we see a similar case today from one of the drivers? Potentially Brian, maybe Tehan Aranga, would it be Denan Abesekro, or even the likes of Angela Senaratna, or even Savi Ratnaika down the grid?
Yep, it's going to be all to play for in this, and of course, there's also the other added element of jeopardy where both Pro and AM classes are running on the track at the same time. Now, this is something quite unique to this year that we've done with the CMSC Race at Home Championship. Of course, now with Assetto Corsa Competizione. So it's very different to what we used to have in GT Sport when you and I were racing, where we used to have the Pro and the AM categories separate, so that drivers, I mean, it benefited drivers in terms of at least they were driving to their own, within their own classes in completely separate races. But this, we have more cars on track, we have the potential for more action, and I think there might be some battles up and down the field, because if you have an AM driver finishing ahead of some Pro drivers, that's definitely something, there's a lot of kudos that goes out for a feat like that.
Definitely, and that's one of the wonders of the ACC platform. As you can see on the current grid list at the moment, all the white numbers are the Pro drivers on our grid. We have 10 drivers in total, and all the we have 9 Pro drivers at the moment, and from what we can see, we have 4 amateur drivers on the grid in the likes of Kevan, Sean, we have Siobhan, and we have Dinesh Paterna. So at the moment, Brian Pereira closes that gap at the top to just under 0.2 of a second to Tehan Aranga. Let's ride on board with Savi Ratnaika, taking a different car choice this weekend. The same car as his Silverstone round, however, that was not a very representative race for Savi, as he had technical issues which pretty much prevented him from actually taking part in half the race. He was able to get the fastest lap of the race, which is good for his confidence. He is racing his actual blue and yellow livery this weekend. What can Savi Ratnaika do?
Of course, he's picked the Lamborghini, the Huracan. A very difficult. It's quite a rewarding car to drive, but it's also a little bit of an on the knife edge in these GT racing championships compared to some of the other options that drivers may check. Of course, with the engine more or less mid-mounted, but behind the driver, it gives decent balance. But yeah, if you have to be very careful with your throttle application, as I think we see a yellow flag on track just towards the first corner there, but looks like for that's being cleared up.
Look at the gap.
Savi Ratnaika has set the fastest time of 1:34.162, and with 5 minutes left in the session, I think everyone's going to have to get their foot down.
Look at the gap between the top 5, Sam. 0.2 of a second cover the entire top 5 right now. This championship is coming alive. In Silverstone, we weren't able to see such close lap times because the 2 Ford Mustangs were able to run away with things, as Silverstone is pretty much a 70% full throttle circuit. Misano, more technically gifted, potentially the Lamborghini could be coming into its own at the hands of Savi Ratnaika. Oh
yes, definitely. As Oh, as we say that Tahanaranga goes off the track. No, that's Fawzal Alim going off the track, but Tahanaranga sets another whole 500ths of a second
That is
faster.
quick. That is immensely quick.
So
The
like we
first
said,
man
the
into
Ford
the
Mustang-
33 seconds.
Yeah, and like we said, that Ford Mustang really does seem to be the car of choice around here this weekend. But let's see what Savi can do. Let's see what Fawzan Alim can do. And of course,
Savi immediately responding. Savi has immediately responded with a lap 2.5 tenths shy of Tahanaranga. We have a special shout out to Nuwan Harshana, making his race at home debut this weekend. He was not able to take part last weekend. However, he is also in the Ford Mustang and has immediately slotted into that crucial top 5. Denanabe Sekura sets a personal best lap time of a 34.927, but still 1.3 seconds shy of the top lap time by Tahanaranga. We have Angelo Sinaratna slotting into P4, bumps Nuwan out of the top 5. Look at how close the battle is between 3rd to 6th. And once those drivers can inevitably bump their lap times up closer to the lap times of Tahanaranga, this pole position battle is going to get spicy.
Definitely. And we see Savi Radnaika went fast on that last lap, but it still wasn't good enough for pole. It is 200ths of a second, 200ths off the pace. But let's see, as the track ramps up, will Tahanaranga go faster still, or will someone else be able to catch them? But yeah, the top 3 kind of seem to be in a league of their own right now. It's a bit surprising to me to see the likes of Angelo Sanaratna, Brian Pereira, Yashan as well, also in a bit further back in the field this race. I don't know whether that's indicative of the setup, or whether it's indicative of just whether the car choice for this track hasn't been right for them.
It could potentially be a mixture of both, Sam. It could be the actual car choice may not suit the long straights of Misano, as the power the Ford Mustang generates is able to maybe make up for its lack of potential downforce through the hairpins, whereas the likes of Fawzal and Dehan were already showing their true pace in Silverstone, along the likes of Savi Ratnaika, who was not able to take part. However, he did secure the fastest lap of the race without actually taking part in the actual proceedings. And for all we know, the Lamborghini could be an actual rival to the Ford Mustang. We've just not seen anybody actually go forward with this.
That's right. So, let's remind everyone how this works. So we have 1 minute left in qualifying, and then we'll go into a 60-minute race. And within those 60 minutes, there has to be a mandatory pit stop. So drivers will have to make at least one pit stop, but depending on their pit strategy and depending on their fuel management, they may opt to take more than one. But we expect everyone to make the single pit stop. And of course, drivers are free to refuel during that. The pit window will open in between 10 and 25 minutes. So drivers will have to make a pit stop within their pit window, that mandatory pit window. So we have 35 seconds of qualifying left. Thiago, do you want to take it away as we see Mr. Weirkun going off track a little bit, getting a little bit happy on the loud pedal.
So now we are filing into the final moments of qualifying. Sam, crucially, Nuwan and Tehan are both sat in the pits. They will not be taking part in this last section of qualifying. Brian Pereira does not go faster, but he will start his final lap. Can we find Fawzal Alim? He is the man I want to ride on board with at the moment. He sets his personal best, and I believe he's just warm. The qualifying session is over, so these lap times have to count. Let's find Savi Ratnaika, the one man I feel can actually face off against Tahanaranga at the moment. Savi's lap times are around the same pace as his personal best, And I believe he is still on a lap. He's heading into the final corner of the circuit. Can Savi Ratnayaka do anything about dethroning Tehaneranga at the top of the standings? He runs up to the line. Savi Ratnayaka is not able to beat Tehaneranga. Can anyone beat Tehaneranga? I don't believe they can, as I believe almost everyone has completed their laps. We have Kevan Samarajiva, who I believe is also completed with his laps. So Kevan can't do so. Is Brian Pereira on a lap? I don't believe he is. We will ride on board with him just in case. Yes, he is heading into the final corners. Let's see if Brian Pereira can get anywhere close to the front row of the grid here at Misano. Heading to the line. Brian Pereira sitting in P5. He gets into P4, he just pips Angelo Senaratna, but that is your grid for the Misano Grand Prix.
Yes, it is. So we have Tehaneranga in pole position for the 60-minute race. Tehana, of course, leading the championship with 25 points and already looking to cement that lead. Then we have Savi Ratnayaka in second, Fauzal Alim in third in the Ford Mustang, and Brian Pereira in fourth, followed by Angelo Senaratna and in Harshana.
Oh yes, Nirosh Yashan in P8. And we have Nimesh Dean in
Diabasek in P7, Nimesh Dean in P9, Eswirkun in P10, and then we come into the AM categories with Shevan Rutrana who will start in P11, but he will be leading the AM category. And we have
Shan Amarasinghe in P12, Kevan Samarajiva rounding up in P13, and Dinesh Pathrana in P14. Now, this just goes to show the disparity. Nothing against any of the skills of the AM drivers, but this just goes to show how crucial the AM Pro settings of ACC, how crucial they are to actually formatting this race. As you can see, the 10 pros have filled up the top 10 grid slots, with the 4 AMs filling up 11 to 14th place on the grid.
And I think if you think about it, that's exactly how it should be. But I was kind of hoping that some of the AMs would mix it with the pros. It would have been nice to see some battles up and down the field that way. But let's see in the race. It's a long race, 60 minutes, and anything can happen. And of course, it usually does. And with pit strategy as well coming into play, it could be a very different finishing lineup to what we have right now for our grid. Right, so there are 25 points on offer for first place, with 18 points for second, 15 for third. To give you guys a reminder of the pro category championship, so far we have Tehaneranga in first, leading the championship, followed by Angelo Senaratna in P2. He will, of course, be starting this race in P5. In third place in the Pro Championship is Brian Pereira, who managed to secure fourth place on the starting grid for this race. Then we have Fauzal Alim in fourth place in the championship, followed by Durand Abesekra, Nimesh Dean, Abdullah Yusuf, Shane Wirikun, Nirosh Yashan, and Savi Ratnayaka. We also have Nuwan Harshana, Madhura Premaratna, Ayam Fazal, and Andrew Shawn, all with no points yet for this championship. Right, so Diago, I believe we're about to start.
We are lining up for this race start. I believe it is a rolling start. I believe it will be a rolling start. We have 2.5 minutes to the start for all the drivers to get a sip of water, get themselves prepared for the grueling 1 hour of Misano that lies ahead. But just take a look at this, Sam. While we look at this grid, you can see the sheer size and bulkiness of the Ford Mustangs, but look at Kevan Samarajiva in the background with his massive Bentley. We actually have Dinesh Pathrana in 14th.
Yeah, we have exactly. We have 2 Bentleys in the field. And they're placed just behind the Ferraris, so it makes their
It's got
sheer size
bodyguards.
look even more, even more out of proportion there. But great to see such a great variety of cars. But if you look at it, the last few cars, it's McLaren, starting with ninth place with Nirosh Yashan. It's McLaren, Ferrari, Bentley. So that's interesting. That's very interesting. But
Brilliant.
yeah, Savi Ratnakar, the only driver to be driving a Lamborghini in this session, starting P2. But yeah, that will be the question. Is the Lamborghini easier on its tires? Is it better on its fuel? I would have to say with the V10 engine, it might not be. But of course, a big part of race strategy for a long endurance style 1 hour race is about fuel management and how you manage basically how you manage your fuel, how you manage your throttle application, whether you decide to lift and coast in certain sections. So that will be very interesting. The Ford Mustang, although not exactly known as a fuel sipping car in general, I have a feeling it probably is better than the Lamborghini on the long pace runs. And then, of course, we have Brian Pereira in the BMW, another car that could do well on fuel, I think, with a 6-cylinder engine.
Sam, now educate me on this for a little bit. The Lamborghini, correct me if I'm wrong, is it a rear engine car or a mid-engine car?
You would say it's a mid-engine car. The Lamborghini would be more of a mid-engine car.
And with the Mustang being a front engine.
Correct.
So would you not say that this would potentially play into the hands of the Lamborghini in terms of tire wear? With potential higher tire stress on the front tires for the Mustangs?
Potentially, yes. It as with everything, I think it all boils down to the driving style a lot as well. So
most certainly.
Depending on how a driver can adapt to the unique specifications of the car, and this is one of the great things about e-racing. These cars very closely represent what the real life cars, or what they feel like in real life, down to tire wear, down to fuel management, down to throttle application. All those things are replicated in the esports world, and that's why you have certain drivers feeling more comfortable in certain cars. Now, I think Brian prefers a more stable car to be right on board with him, which is why he's gone for the BMW, a very traditional front-engine rear-wheel drive layout. But then you have Savi, who obviously prefers possibly a car with a little bit better front end, perhaps being able to manage the weight distribution a little bit better with that engine layout. So yeah, it all depends on what the driver feels, and the best part about e-racing is you are free to choose what car you want, whereas in the real world, you basically have to go to whatever seat that is available for you. So you have to mold your driving style around the car you're given. But here, you're free to pick out a car that suits your driving style.
Now, Sam, I'm uncertain as to why the standings actually list Savi as third on the starting order. Because to my understanding, was Savi Ratnayaka not P2 on the grid?
I'm wondering whether...
I don't believe Faisal had actually pipped Savi to P2, as I remember the Ford Mustangs lining up behind each other.
But the Mustang, Savi has let the Mustang go in front, so there must be something that we don't know.
Potentially an in-game penalty. I'm not certain of what is happening. Neither Savi nor Faisal seem to know what each other should do.
Yeah, I'm not sure. The drivers look as if they're not sure either.
Savi is lining up in P2 though.
Yeah.
Oh, there is contact on the formation lap. What is happening on this formation lap? Brian Pereira in P4 does not want to get involved in any of this. However, he does eventually line up into his P4 slot. Sam, here we go. We're lining up for the start of the Misano Grand Prix. Tehanaranga. lines up on the outside of the final corner, which will translate to the inside of turn 1. Here we go, a rolling start. Let's see what lies ahead. We ride on board with Tehaneranga. As green lights. Into turn 1, Falzel goes down the inside. There's contact between Falzel and Savi. Savi goes wide, reminiscent of last year's championship at this very circuit. Falzel and Savi making contact, and Falzel is round. Is Falzel round? We go down the grid. We have a great start from Nuwan Harshana, who's up into P3. Brian plummeting down the grid as well. But it looks like there was contact between Savi and Falzel. This is
Yes, it did.
bizarre. We have Angelo Senaratna down the inside of Savi. Angelo is fighting for a podium position right now. He's fighting P2. Will he go down the inside into the double right-hander?
He looks at it and he thinks better of it. He knows that this is a long race. It's a 60-minute race. So races like this are not won in the first corner, but they are definitely lost. So I think that will. I'd wonder whether the stewards will have to investigate that first corner incident between Savi and Falzao. But yeah, it's great news for Angelo Senaratne. He's the big winner. He's managed to leapfrog both Brian and Falzao and get his Aston Martin into P3, and it looked like he's really challenging Savi for P2 right now. And again, Tehaneranga manages to get it out in front, and he's already got a considerable lead over second place, a 2-second lead over Savi Ratnayaka. What is happening further back? It looks as if things are just...
Sam, this is reminiscent to Silverstone in round 1. Tehaneranga, once he's got into the lead of the race, he is eking out a gap reminiscent of Sebastian Vettel in his Red Bull days. Tehaneranga is absolutely flying out front. But we ride back with a little battle here between Nimesh Dean and Nirosh Yeshan. Let's find Fawzal Alim. Sam, you said the stewards might have to investigate this. They will definitely have to investigate that lap 1 incident. However, from what I saw, it looked like a bit of an over-audacious move from Fawzal Alim into turn 1. And his front axle just making contact with Savi's side and just pirouetting him around.
Yeah, one of the
hard
things
to say exactly
I think
what's
the stewards will
happened.
have to... It's very hard to say, and it's very hard to... We'll have to have a look at the onboards later, but... It's a difficult one for the stewards, because you could argue that because Fawzao did spin at that first corner, that... I mean, he's way down the grid right now. He's way down the field. A penalty at this point would not really make much sense. It wouldn't really affect his race, because he's already served some sort of penalty, because he was pirouetted, and I mean, Savi did manage to go, get, as we see, Nimesh Dean very aggressive with the McLaren of
Nirosh Yeshan.
Actually, no, that was Yeshan. That was Yeshan with,
actually overtaking Nimesh Dean.
Yes.
What a battle we have. These are the battles we love to see here at Race at Home.
Exactly.
And one thing's for certain, Fawzal Ali making yet another comeback, reminiscent to Silverstone last round. Fawzal Alim's going to be fighting back to the grid, and you can be almost certain that he's going to be on the back of Nimesh Dean through these corners. You can see just how much he's gaining. He has to wait for the long straight, which will come up very shortly. These long straights are Fawzal's golden ticket. Look at the power of the Ford Mustang. It's like a form of DRS, but in GT3 racing. He just slides. Nimesh Dean holding it around the outside.
No, I think that was a bit ambitious from Nimesh Dean. Fawzao had him covered off. Nimesh flashing the lights there just a little bit, trying to unsettle the Mustang, and we see the McLaren going wide and making it very easy for Fawzal Alim to get another place up. So yeah, Fawzal Alim on a man on a mission, it seems. Definitely wanting to make up for that first lap mistake.
Look at how close the racing is right now. This is much more closer than the racing we were able to see in Silverstone last weekend. I can tell these two are going to be engrossed in some close racing all race long. Oh, Dean running very wide. We will come back to these drivers and these battles. At the moment, we have Shane Virakun maybe warming up his tires. Might get a slight warning from the stewards for potential weaving, but there was no harm down there. However,
Yeah,
he will be.
Unfortunate for him, exactly. Unfortunate for him that we just cut the cut the camera to him at that moment. He looked to be weaving on the straight, which is generally not really encouraged by anyone for safety. But yeah, he's gonna have to do everything if he was trying to get heat into his tires. It looks like it's a day late and a dollar short because the Mustang
again
pulls out again, and he makes that pass look so easy. Fawzal Alim now up to 8th place after dropping down to 11th earlier in the race. He's already into 8th.
And this time we don't see the McLaren he's overtaking try to hang it around the outside. Shane playing things very safe. He knows that Fawzal probably has the pace to pull away. He has the legs in that Force Mustang to basically pull away and maybe catch Brian Pereira in 6th. Fawzal Alim spinning to 11th, 12th at the start of the race, is already in 7th, fighting back towards Brian Pereira. Absolute crazy.
Now that's going to be a
right
battle. That is a battle I want to see. I think he's about 5 seconds off Brian so far, but if he manages to get up to the tail of Brian, that's not going to be an easy car to overtake. Brian will make that BMW M4 as wide as possible, which is going to be interesting because the Ford Mustang is already a pretty wide car.
We see Angelo Senaratna now starting to pull Savi back into his clutches. He sets his fastest lap, his personal best of the race. Angelo Senaratna is coming. But look out for Nuwan Harshana behind. He's staying 1.3 seconds away. He has the power in that Ford Mustang to essentially close up on these drivers in front. He is in the same frame as these drivers.
And that Ford Mustang is just so powerful on this track. Any driver who picked it at the beginning of the season must be thanking their lucky stars when it comes to this second round of the championship. But Angelo Senaratna, very experienced racer, both in karting and in the esports arena. He seems to be managing the gap quite nicely to Savi Ratnayaka. He doesn't want to burn fuel through his fuel. He doesn't want to burn through his tires. Seems to be managing the gap quite nicely. I think he knows that Savi Ratnayaka is probably not going to make a mistake, and this could be one on strategy rather than on track. But I don't know. He's getting closer, but these are two drivers with a lot of respect for each other. They've done a lot for the esports racing community so far. So there's going to be a lot of on-track respect for them. But if in the final few minutes of this race things might get a bit tasty, I'm sure the gloves will come off.
Angelo Senaratna and Savi Ratnayaka currently go-karting endurance teammates. Angelo not running the 6-hour endurance this time round, but Savi has been the new entrant to the RHC go-karting racing team. So there is a lot of, in a way, brotherly love between these two drivers, but again, no love lost when it comes to on-track battles. But one thing you crucially said, Sam, was potential tire saving, potential fuel saving. Angelo Senaratna was able to jump up from a potential 4th to a clear 2nd place in Silverstone based on his strategy. Ideally, I believe he was saving tires and saving fuel, and he was able to have a shorter pit stop than the drivers in front of him. Will he do the same this weekend? He is right in the clutches of Savi. Will he make a move down the inside? Is there a move? No, there is no move. They're very close. No contact. Very clean racing between the two drivers. But they're really at each other's throat at the moment. And all this battling is allowing Tehani Ranga to pull clear at the front. Tehani Ranga now 6.5 seconds ahead. Savi Ratnayaka is able to keep Angelo Senaratna behind for the time being. But how much longer can he keep Angelo Senaratna behind?
Yeah, it was a scruffy few corners from Savi Ratnaika in that last lap, and I think it just allowed Angelo to catch up a little bit. And Angelo doesn't need a second invitation. You just saw him pull out of the slipstream and have a look down the inside. It's a very, very tricky track to overtake on if you don't have that extra power of the slipstream, or if you haven't been able to get off the last few corners well enough. But yeah, I think that was just a bit of a reminder to Savi that Angelo is very much on the pace. But now look at this, Haranga already after 6 laps, 7 seconds in the lead. That's more than one. It's more than a second a lap that he's managed to gain
He's
on the
just
second
flying
position.
out front. No
He is,
need to worry about any other competitors around him. And also, the battling of Savi and Angelo, as little as the battling might seem, it is slowing both drivers down, and if anything, it's slowing second all the way down to 6 down. Because one thing in racing is, the drivers would essentially react to what's happening in front of them. Angelo may not be going for moves. He is going for moves, but he might not be going for any dive bombs at the moment. But his pace is slowly, gradually really decreasing with the lack of pace from Savi Ratnaika in second right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's Angelo could turn this around by just sitting in the slipstream, and of course, when you sit in the slipstream, you can afford to turn your engine down, or you can afford to lift and coast a little bit more. You basically take away a lot of that aerodynamic drag that you would normally experience, and you can manage to save a little bit of fuel that way. At least that's the way we used to do it in GT Sport and on GT7. It was a great strategy employed by some better than others. So it requires you to be a very, very patient driver, as we see Diabaseka going off the track in the Ferrari in that lovely white and red McLaren-inspired livery Ferrari. He's just took that corner a little bit wide and went over the rumble strips, but he's managed to do a pretty good race so far. He's managing to keep fifth in his clutches, and we have Nirosh Harshana in fourth place. Again, managing to keep Nimesh.
We have Angelo and Savi once again going hammer and tom. Angelo has experience in the real world with endurance racing, as although an hour may not seem like long, it is a form of endurance racing in a way, as it's not necessarily a sprint. You have to basically manage your tires, manage your fuel. The win is not won essentially on the first lap, as we have seen from Falzel and Savi. Contact in the first lap has essentially ruined Falzel's chances of winning, with Tahanaranga pulling out such a lead on him, as Angelo Sinaratna has plenty of real-world go-karting endurance racing experience, with Cisco Labs in the corporate endurances, RT Racing in the normal private endurances, a podium sitter at multiple endurances, the winner of multiple corporate endurances, and Savi Ratnaika, another endurance racing driver with hour-long endurance stints in the Go-Kart Speedstar Championships. Both drivers have the endurance experience. However, Tahanaranga is pulling out the pace at the moment.
Yes, he is. And I think this is a great juncture to give a shout out to our sponsors. Of course, we have ACBT, title sponsor, who have been supporting the Ceylon Motorsports Club in many events this year. Of course, the real-life karting events that we've been having at Speedway and at Mahagastoto as well. Our annual hill climb, the oldest hill climb in Southeast Asia. But yeah, so far so good. And we also have Speedway on board. Speedway, of course, pioneering karting and grassroots motorsport in that arena. But this is just another aspect of racing that has come to the forefront and is being supported heavily by the FIA right now. So it's great to see these sponsors on board, recognizing that esports has its place in the Sri Lankan motorsports calendar as well.
As we come back to the top 6 battle, although Tahanaranga is currently pulling away at the top of the grid. Second to sixth is involved in a very heated battle, and very soon Fawzul Alim will be joining this 4-5 car battle. Sam, although there are not many overtakes at the moment, I must say this is a huge step up from the competition of Silverstone last weekend, as the drivers were essentially getting used to the formats of ACC. As today, everyone is running at a very similar pace, maybe apart from the two Ford Mustangs of Tehan Aranga and potentially Fawzul Alim.
Yeah, agreed. But speaking of Fawzul Alim, he's managed to get. I've been watching his pace the last few laps. He's managed to get the gap to Brian within about three seconds now. It was hovering around 4-5 seconds a few laps ago. Now he's got it down to 3.5 seconds. So, and now as I speak, it's 3.2 seconds. So, yeah, that might be a battle to keep an eye on in the next few laps. But I'll tell you what, there's a battle going on right now between...
Whoa!
Oh, and as we see the Ferrari of DRB Sector going off, getting a little bit too happy on the throttle pedal, and really, I mean, it's impressive that he managed to keep it on the track. That's for sure. Of course, his cars don't have ABS
for one to keep it back on track,
switched on,
and to actually stay ahead.
So what we were saying, these cars are far more forgiving than the Formula 4 cars in iRacing. These cars, of course, you can have traction control running, you can have ABS running, so it gives you a little bit of a safety net. But if you put a wheel wrong, like we just saw in the Ferrari, of Durand Abisecra, it can give the opportunity. But for some reason, Brian just hasn't been able to capitalize on that. And again, we see Angelo Senaratna and Savi Ratnayaka just managing the pace in second and third. I have a feeling they're controlling themselves. I believe they're controlling the race. They don't want to take any unnecessary risks at this point in time. We still have 43 minutes left to go in this race. So yeah, but if we go back to Brian and Durand Abisecra, he's going for a move indeed. He's just looking, but in that Ferrari is looking very, very wide right now. He's taking a very defensive line and managing to cover off this very experienced racer, Brian Pereira. Of course, you know, we've raced together in the formulas. It's in real life at Kotagunda, and he's definitely a formidable defender. He knows exactly how to defend, and you know, this kind of thing, he prefers to be out front. He admitted to us last year at the last stream, off the back of his win in the Formula 4 series on iRacing just last weekend in fact, that he loves to be out front with a big lead. So I wouldn't say he's out of his comfort zone, but he definitely would wish to be at the head of the field right now. And yeah, he's exactly. And again, all credit to Durand Abisecra. He's managed to get that, despite a few mistakes on the last couple of laps. He's managed to increase the gap again to about a second. So he's moving out of that slipstream. He's managed to move out of the slipstream, or giving the slipstream rather to Brian.
All the while
is falling exactly. All the while, he's falling further back into the clutches of Fawzul Alim.
This should get interesting in a couple laps, with Fawzul being just over a second and a half behind Brian. But let's head back to the front of the grid. We have Savi Ratnayaka in P2 at the moment, 10 seconds now behind Tehan Aranga, who has already lapped his first few cars. Tehan Aranga with the fastest lap of the race at 33.7 ahead of Fawzul's 34.1. The two Ford Mustangs are clearly the class of the field at the moment, but anything can happen in these races. Last round in Silverstone, we saw many drivers, including the likes of Denan Abisecra, Fawzul Alim, all getting stop-go penalties after speeding in the pit lane after actually serving their mandatory pit stops. So a race-ruining penalty is essentially one simple mistake away. And now we see Denan Abisecra fighting back. From being on the defense against Brian Pereira, he's now fighting Nuwan Harshana. bringing that Ferrari up the grid. He wants to fight for a podium today. After being unlucky to run from a podium position to getting a stop-go penalty and fighting back to P6, he is now looking to make a move on Nuwan Harshina. Will he wait for the next straight? If he can get a good run through this double right-hander, form of a hairpin essentially, very reminiscent of the Sepang corner before the penultimate final corner. We have Denon again, the Ford Mustang pulling ahead on the back straight.
It looks to me that the Ferrari is very, very good in the corners, as you'd expect any Ferrari to be. The Ferrari looks just very comfortable in the corners, but like you say, on the straights, that Mustang seems to have the power to pull away. So as we just see here, like, Durand is getting a lot closer to the back of that Mustang in the corners, but now on this straight, just look at the way that Mustang manages to pull away, and they're managing to
look at the way.
He's managing to.
Look at the way the BMW is catching the Ferrari.
I think I don't know what's going on right now, but yeah, we're going to have another battle between Brian Pereira and Durand Abisogro.
This is wonderful. It's a ding-dong battle between all these drivers. We see one lap, Denon being on the defense against Brian. The next lap, he's fighting off against Nuwan Harshina. And now again, he's just stuck in the middle of two battles. We see Kevan Samarjiva being lapped. Still getting used to the mechanics of ACC. It is a very tough... Oh! There's contact! There's contact, and Kevan Samarjiva taking out two of the front runners. One being Brian Pereira, the other being Fawzul Alim. What has happened there?
Unfortunate to see. I just took my eyes off the screen for a split second there. What actually happened there?
I just saw it out of the corner of my Sam. It just all happened pretty much off camera. I just saw Kevan maybe misjudging his braking zone, being overtaken by the cars lapping him, and he just completely missed his braking point, slammed into Brian Pereira, and then Fawzul Alim, who was actually catching the top 6, just got caught in an unfortunate situation. Fawzul Alim's second incident of the race, another unfortunate incident. As Kevan Samarjiva will definitely get reprimanded by the stewards. But it's taken the pressure off Denon Abesekra and would now allow him to potentially fight with more aggression against Nuwan Harshina.
It is disappointing to see when lapped cars get in the way of on-track battles, but I mean, there's multiple ways to look at it. I know in GT Sport, generally the cars that are running lapped would be ghosted out, which, although unrealistic, it does allow for, or rather, it prevents back markers from severely impacting a race. But if you look at it from another perspective, this is exactly what happens in real life. How many times have we seen at the Le Mans 24 Hours a back marker or someone who is potentially in being lapped cause an incident for some of the leading cars? So I mean, this is motorsports. This is a part of it, and it's very realistic the way that the rules and regulations are for this ACC championship. It's very realistic, and you know, it could be someone's lucky day, it could be someone's unlucky day when it comes to back markers in this racing field. I tell you who it's very lucky for, it is again Durand Abesekra, who seems to be closer to the back of that Ford Mustang than he has all race.
Sam, I just want to drag your attention to that final sector. You see the difference in lines between the Mustang and the Ferrari. The Mustang hugging the inside, potentially because it needs that extra fine line to get downforce, whereas the Ferrari was able to take a very wide entry into a swooping line, because essentially the Ferrari has that extra downforce capabilities to it. As you can see just how close he's getting. Denon realistically needs to make a move through one of these slow corners. As you can see on this short back straight, he immediately loses a whole chunk of time to Nuwan Harshina.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's that classic sort of cat and mouse thing that you see in so many forms of motorsport when you prioritize straight line speed versus um, sort of a more track ready downforce thing. But again, getting very close to the back of that Mustang. But
But
as he exits
again,
that corner, he just
on the
doesn't have
straights,
the
he's
power
actually
to get it
close.
alongside.
He is somewhat close this
Right,
lap
so
round.
we have-
Will he go for a dive? Will he potentially go for a switchback here on the exit of the long... Oh, he's down the inside! But he backs out of it,
No,
late braking
he-
by Nuan. But can he get it on the exit? Side by side, will he go for another switchback? Ideally, the switchback is there. Good defense by Nuan Harshana, but Nuan goes into the pits. Very smart play by Nuan
very smart.
Harshana.
I think Nuan saw that the longer that he fought with the Ferrari, the more time he would be losing. So this was a great time to get into the pits, get his pit stop out of the way. But this is really the chance for Durad Abiseko to put his foot down. Now he has clean air. He can essentially do a bit of an overcut. And if he does this right, if he manages to keep the car on track, if he manages to set in some very competitive lap times, now that he's got no car in front of him, now that he's got no one to fight with, if he can set some faster times, and going off track like that isn't going to do it, but he's managed to keep it he's managed to keep it in a straight line. But these next few laps are going to be critical for him because he needs to put in some brilliant laps. And essentially, if you're watching at home and if you're wondering what we're talking about when it comes to overcut and undercut, if in clear air, Durad Abiseko is able to set some really fast laps right now, he has the chance to pit in at the end of this stint when he decides to pit and re-emerges from the pit lane. He might be ahead of that Ford Mustang that he was battling so closely, purely because he was able to gain more speed in free air.
Precisely, and all it takes is one good in lap from Denon or one good out lap from Nuan. Now, if I were Denon, I would have pitted this lap, as Savi has done so, covering off any form of an undercut. You know what I might think is happening here, Sam? Do you think Denon has just used up just a little bit too much fuel, a little bit more fuel than Nuan has had to use, by having to try and overtake Nuan on those straights? Whereas the Ford Mustang would have potentially been able to short shift, coast through the corners, and maybe save a bit more fuel, resulting in a much shorter pit stop, essentially. Oh, as Nimesh Dean with a stop-go penalty, Sam. So just to cut you off, Sam, this is what I meant. Speeding on the exit of the pit lane, Nimesh Dean has secured himself a 30-second stop-go penalty. That is a real blow to his race. Highly unlikely he gets taken by the bottom two drivers at the moment, as they have been lapped at the moment, but this has really made a bad impact on his race.
That is very unfortunate for Nimesh Dean. To answer your earlier question, what you say is right. In conventional racing, we would normally have pit stops where it all depends on how much fuel you put in. So doing some fuel saving would definitely allow for you to, or allow you to have a shorter pit stop because you obviously need less fuel to be put in. But from what I understand, going through the rules, the pit times are locked at 25 seconds for all the cars. So whether you decide to put 1 liter or 100 liters of fuel in, you're still going to be held in the pit lane for 25 seconds. So that's not going to play too much of a factor here. I would imagine the fuel saving, if they are doing any fuel saving, would be to avoid a second pit stop, which, depending on how much fuel they have left right now, as we see Denon Abiseko coming into the pits for his mandatory pit spot. So this is going to be the interesting one. Let's stick with exactly. Let's sit with Denon Abiseko as we see how long he sits in them. Shall we switch back to the Ford Mustang he was battling with, which would have been
let's try and find
Harshana.
Nuan Harshana. Here we go. So Nuan Harshana entering the final sector of the Misano circuit, the weak sector for the Ford Mustang, has Denon done enough to emerge ahead of Nuan? This is really exciting stuff. Let's ride on board with Nuan as he enters the sharp, tight corner complexes into the penultimate corner. Entering now the final sharp left-hander. Denon still sitting in the pits. Where will Denon emerge in comparison to Nuan Harshina? Nuan down the main straight. Where is Denon? I think he's got Denon, but there are some cars exiting the pit lane. Where is Denon?
He's still in the pits. He's still in the pits. He's stuck in the pits.
No!
Oh no, he's out.
Denon has got ahead. And he's ahead by an absolute country mile.
Wow, that is very impressive stuff there. And there you go, the power of the overcut being shown in very, very clearly there. How Denon Abiseko has been able to stick to peace. Not only has he done that, he's right behind Savi Ratnayaka on track at least. So as we see, Tehan Aranga has also had his pit stop, so he's down to 4th. So
now, Sam.
Now we have Fawza Halim, Angelo Senaratna. Yes, Angelo Senaratna, Fawza Halim.
There's 2 crucial battles I want to see here, Sam. I want to see Angelo Senaratna, where he comes out in comparison to Savi with the strength of this overcut, as he was only 2.5 seconds behind Savi coming into the pit stops. And where is Fawza Halim in comparison to Denon and Nuan, because he wasn't that far off even with his collision. As there are cars coming out of the pits, Savi is safe from Angelo. Tehan Aranga. Angelo coming out of the pits, Fawzal coming out of the pits. There goes Savi. Where is Angelo and where is Fawzal? There's Denon, he gets past Fawzal. Here's Fawzal. Does he get ahead of Nuan Harshina? Fawzal exits the pits and he's ahead of Nuan Harshina. What did I say? The power of the overcut has jumped ahead of the other Ford Mustang in the race.
That is brilliant to see. Now that is pit strategy in action. So yeah, in Harshina's, he's going to be a little bit upset about that, but yeah, he opted to pit very early. He opted to pit early, and I think everyone behind him was given that opportunity in free air and in clear running to set some very, very fast laps, and yeah, that's what they've done. They've managed to get in front. So Fawza Halim, he despite a pretty messy first lap, where I think we saw him down to 11th. An incident-prone race indeed. So he's up to 5th. We have Denon Abiseko in 4th. He's managed to jump ahead as well. And Angelo Senaratna still in 3rd. Now 5 seconds behind the leader. And we have Savi Ratnayaka in 2nd. But yeah, Tehan Aranga. Shall we ride on board with Tehan just a little bit? Because I don't think we've had it. He's been comfortably in the lead. As we see Kevan.
He's been too far ahead.
But the thing is, it's not over until it's over. And as we saw with the unfortunate incident with Brian and Kevan and Fawza Halim, it just takes one back mark, or it just takes one slip up for Tehan's race to go from this 10-second lead that he currently has to potentially much less than that. So although it looks like he's very comfortable right now and he's already done his pit stop, he's all completed his pit stop. So what you're seeing, I think all the front runners on the track have completed their pit stop as the pit window comes to an end. So they're all very comfortable. They're running the way that they should.
We continue to ride on board with Tehan. We've just gone past the half-an-hour mark, and Sam, one crucial point I want to point out is, look at the gap between Tehan and Savi. What I noticed was, it hasn't changed much ever since the pit stops. This was relatively the same gap before the stops as well. Savi has been able to keep pretty much the same pace as Tehan Aranga. Is this potentially foreshadowing a possible charge from Savi, or is it just Tehan Aranga managing the pace slightly?
It's a good question. It's a very good question. I think it's a bit of both. But I'll tell you what is more interesting to me is Angelo has dropped off by, well, he's 7 seconds behind Savi now. And considering how close he was running to the back of that Lamborghini just about 10, 15 minutes earlier in this race, that's quite disappointing for him because it looked
I believe there was a
at
mistake.
many points that he was going to... looks like he was about... As we hear the pit window is now closed.
Sam. Because
You think?
his last lap was a 35.8, which we wouldn't be sure if that is just the pace on potentially a heavier full fuel load. However, Savi just at a 34.6, his fastest lap of the race. That would explain why that gap has spiked up to almost 7 seconds now.
Yeah. It's an interesting one.
And Denanabe
Yeah,
Sakura,
great.
36.2.
Very good
go.
showing from that Ferrari.
Sam, here we go. A battle between the two Ford Mustangs. Nuwan Harshna has not let that move go. And are we seeing any results of two incidents in the race for Fawzul Alim? Are we seeing just some damage for Fawzul Alim, which is maybe hindering his pace slightly and causing Nuwan to close in?
That's a very good question. I think both, to be honest, I think both he and Brian might have suffered damage in that last altercation because they both seem to have dropped off the pace since. And yeah, it looks as if that blistering pace that Fawzul Alim had, although he was able to overcut Nuwan Harshner in the pit stops, he doesn't seem to be able to capitalize on that by pulling away, and it looks like we're going to have a battle between the two Fords.
Indeed we are. This is exactly what we were hoping for. Nuwan Harshner not letting the overcut of Fawzul reign supreme, as he is keeping that gap at around half a second, 0.6 of a second at the moment. Fawzul just doesn't have the pace he had early on in the race. As we check his last lap times, his last lap was at 35.1, a whole second slower than the fastest lap he has this race. Whereas we look with with Nuwan Harshner at 34.9, he could potentially go faster. However, his pace is being hindered by Fawzul at the moment.
No, I definitely think there's some damage to that car. You can just see if you look at very closely at Fawzul Alim's car. It looks in far worse shape than the car that is following it. And look at the bonnet. The bonnet is
Yes, there is a
coming
small gap
loose.
with the bonnet.
Exactly, it's
Might
flapping
just
a
be
little
flapping
bit,
around. It
and
looks a bit-
we don't know what.
Looks a bit like cars when we run dirt rally nowadays, isn't it, Sam?
Exactly. Let's not get started on that. Yeah, those. I'll tell you what. It still look, with all the damage that Fawzul Alim is potentially carrying, it still looks a lot better than any of our cars at the end of a dirt rally session.
Oh my gosh, for sure. At least he still has some running and working headlights.
By the way, Thiago, aren't we supposed to be having a dirt rally championship this year?
Yes, for all the viewers tuning in at the moment, we are currently in a heavy PC platform season at the moment, with June, July, and August being filled up with ACC and iRacing championships in preparation for the Valencia Motorsports Games later this year. However, after the PC summer, we call it, we have the return of many console championships with the Gran Turismo Championship taking place. We have the Dirt Rally Championship returning, which is a cross-platform of PC gamers, Xbox gamers, any console gamers. And we also have the potential surprise addition of an F1 championship.
That's going to be very interesting. I'm going to have to start practicing Formula One as well. But yeah, great to see so many different titles being embraced by the CMSC. I just hope we have enough weekends to run all these. The beauty of Dirt Rally, of course, it can be run over a week. That is the issue, and of course, as
this weekend, Sam.
And we have some other exciting CMSC events coming up. We have next weekend. We have the Salon, the ACBT Kart Fight Championship, which is being run in collaboration with the CMSC and Speedway. And then the week after that, I believe or 2 weeks after that, we have the drag races, which is being held at the Liqui Moly drag races, again being officiated by the Ceylon Motorsports Club. And yeah, after that we have a whole bunch of real life events as well. So it's not just e-racing that the Ceylon Motorsports Club is doing.
So congested at the moment, Sam. We have round 1 of Race at Home last weekend, round 2 this weekend. Kart Fight, I think we have on round 29th next week.
Kart Fight, and we also have the RTJ
6-hour endurance
autocross. We have 6-hour endurance, and we also have the RTJ autocross. Yeah. So the autocross has to come in. Not only that, we also have the karting slalom, which has to come in July or August, I think. So yeah.
All these events back to back. At the moment, 5 consecutive weekends of racing, with the 6-hour endurance taking place on the 13th of July. It's too many events to keep track of.
Yeah, it's going to be spreading us thin. But it's something we enjoy, something we love. Definitely looking forward to the RTJ Championship as well as we move back into the real world. But let's focus our attention once again in the esports racing world. So what have we seen? Well, we've seen Tehana Ranga being pretty dominant for the past 25 laps.
Yeah, Tehana Ranga absolutely clearing out front.
Absolutely. Savi Radnaika doing a very decent job staying in second place. I know he would have preferred to be in leading the field, but I think after the showing of last weekend, he'll take this. Of course, only getting 1 point last weekend and potentially on track for getting 18 points this weekend. We have Angelo Senaratna in third place, Denan Abiseka in fourth place, Fauza Alim in 5th place, Noan Hashina in 6th place, Brian Pereira in 7th place, Nirosh Yashan in 8th place, and Shane Wirkun in 9th. Then we have Nimesh Dean in 10th, and then we come to our AM class category, currently being led by Kevan Samrajiva, with Dinesh Patharana in P2 in the AM class, 12th overall, and C. Amarasinghe in 13th, and S. Vitana in 14th. Right, so we have 17 minutes to go.
Khan and Savi.
Where do you think the battles are going to be? Where do you think the battles are going to be in the next, as we come into the the closing stages of this race?
I personally believe this is the battle to watch out for, Sam. We have the battle for P4 with Denon, a resurgent Fauzal, who is somehow managing to punch in consecutive lap times, even with the damage. And we also have Nuwan Harshna, who has just slightly fallen off the pace a little bit. Maybe saving some fuel, maybe saving some tires. He will lose his tires and fuel a lot earlier than the drivers around him, as he was the first man to pit. However, never doubt that Ford Mustang, and never doubt the uncharacteristic mistakes that may actually be a result of anything this race, as we clearly saw 2 of the top 6 runners getting taken out by a backmarker. Not just 1, but 2. I can already tell the post-race driver room is going to be filled with many interesting messages.
Oh yeah, get the popcorn ready. It's going to be very interesting. But yeah, just as you said, not just 1 front runner, but 2. So 2 for the price of 1 with that.
He's killed 2 birds with 1 stone, essentially.
Exactly, and sticking to form. But yeah, let's see. Other than that, I believe that except for the on the first lap incidents, which of course you expect on the first lap of a race like this, it's been a fairly good drive by all the drivers. Everyone keeping it on track. I haven't actually seen, unlike iRacing last Sunday, I haven't seen anyone really going off or spinning spontaneously, shall I say. There's no kind of commentator or cameraman's curse in this event so far.
It's been a real pleasure to not be the cause of a commentator's curse, as we were getting quite a few complaints from the drivers. Of course, not serious complaints. However, there were many drivers who had spectators watching, cheering them on, and then finding their their preferred drivers, essentially spinning off at the very moment we changed our cameras to their POV. So this weekend we've been sure to ensure that we try to not have any cameraman's curses, and so far we've been successful. However, iRacing will be taking place tomorrow at 7:30, and that is something to look out for.
Oh yeah, definitely. iRacing or Farming Simulator 2023, your choice.
Oh.
And as I say that, we have a car going very wide.
I believe that
possibly
was
just getting out
Dinesh
of the way.
Patrana though.
Yes, Dinesh
Being
Patrana
lapped.
might be probably getting out of the way of the leader. Very sensibly done, if that's the case.
See, that
yeah,
is ideally the way you should get blue flagged. Possibly not what Kevan Samarajiva had in mind at that point.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough one. I mean, I think we've all been in that position where we may not have known what cars are coming up behind us, and yeah, it's not easy. It's not tough, but by no fault of Brian or Fawzal Alim's, their races have been potentially, perhaps not ruined, but hindered massively. And I know Brian is going to be very disappointed, particularly down in P7. Fawzal Alim, despite being caught up in that accident, he's managed to maintain 5th place. And of course, considering that he dropped down the field to 11th, I think that's a fairly good recovery from him. As we see Brian Pereira, the car doesn't look like it's suffering from too much damage.
Sam, but
it's
look at his
difficult to
front
tell.
left. Look at the front left of the
Yeah.
car. It just seems a
Yeah,
little bit off.
It does look at a different angle, no? Yeah, I agree.
So that is exactly where he got T-boned, essentially, above the front headlight, essentially. Yeah, it's a little bit of damage.
Maybe not cosmetic, but it's definitely some mechanical damage that he's carrying.
Potentially even suspension damage as well.
Exactly. So very, very, very unfortunate. Yeah, now that you say it, I mean, the lines that he's taking, those aren't the lines that the Brian Pereira that we know would be taking, unless he was managing some serious problem with the steering geometry of that car. So I think that is, I think we have the answer to that. So yeah, 7th place is probably good enough for Brian right now, considering the damage that that car obviously is suffering from. I think the same can be said for Fawzal Alim, who, it's not my imagination, is it? He seems to be closing in on 4th place Denan Apiseko.
Indeed, it's exactly what I said would happen, Sam. Battle for P4 is the one to watch out for. Slowly but surely, Fawzal is catching Denan. Let's take a quick look at their lap times. A 34.9 from Fawzal and a 34.7 from Denan. So Denan has actually responded this lap. That means Fawzal was about 2/10 closer last lap round. And this is Denon's fastest lap of the race as well. So a damaged Fawzal is pushing Denon to go faster than he ever has this race. Denon ideally does not want to have a raging Ford Mustang of Fawzal Alim coming up behind him with 10 minutes to go. But Fawzal Alim is being hampered at the moment with some damage.
And let's not forget that Denan Apiseko was able to hold off the black and green Ford Mustang of Nuwan Harshiner, which didn't appear to be damaged from our perspective for many, many laps. So it's not like he isn't a defensive driver, and it looks like he might be able to put up a good fight. And interestingly, in Silverstone, round 1 of this championship, Fawzal Alim finished 4th and Denan Apiseko finished 5th. So right now, they've reversed the situation.
Are we seeing a potential deja vu in the works?
Exactly. Both cars going very wide there.
However, Sam, in the first half of the race, with the battle with the green and black Mustang of Nuwan Harshiner, the key point to take from that was Denan was the car behind until Nuwan pitted, and Denan was not able to actually make a move past Nuwan due to the lack of power of the Ferrari on the straights in comparison to the power of the Ford Mustang. Will we see Fawzal Alim potentially making a move on a straight, now being below a second behind Denan? Are we going to see a move on the straight rather than through an actual corner from Fawzal Alim?
You're right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And that straight line advantage that the Mustang seems to have is pretty significant, as we saw with Fawzar Alim coming through the field from 10th, 11th, 10th place. He was able to very easily breeze past people on the straight, at least it seemed from our perspective. And just by having that extra momentum and perhaps not leaning on the brakes too much, rolling the car into a corner, he was just able to make some very, very clean overtakes. So yeah, I think that's exactly. So it's going to be very tough. I think Denon Abiseko is already monitoring his mirrors. The gap between Denon and Fawzar is now down to 0.7 seconds. So it's going to be a very tough final 10 minutes for the Ferrari and the Mustang.
And now the Ferrari, crucially, taking a very much finer line than usual this race. But what we've seen is, crucially for Denon, maybe the damage Fawzal sustained is actually affecting his aero as well. As we say that, Fawzal is closer than ever in the slipstream. Will he be able to make a move into a sharp first corner? I don't think he will. Will that translate into any moves throughout this sector? It's a very flowing first sector, similar to the first sector of Paul Ricard in France. However, in Paul Ricard France, you do have the sharp hairpin form corners heading onto a long straight. This is actually a very similar track layout to Paul Ricard. As we head onto a kink left, onto a short straight here, will Fawzal be able to bring it back again? No, he isn't able to emit the same straight line speed he usually has, but he sends a move down the inside. Is there contact? There is no contact. It was a clean dive from Fawzal, and now Denon hugs the inside. Fawzal not wanting to make it 3 incidents in the same race, but Denon taking a very, very fine line. Fawzal will try and switch back now onto the back straight with slipstream. Denon goes defensive. Fawzal follows him through. Will Fawzal do the dummy and hug the inside? No, Denon covers off the inside. But we are coming in to more hairpin corners here. Will Fawzal send one down the inside? Denon holds the inside with a very, very fine line.
Denon is desperate to break the toe that he's giving this Ford Mustang. That Ford Mustang is already far more powerful in a straight line. We've seen it so much, and with that extra slipstream that he's giving, as we see the back market getting clear off the track and out of the way. Yeah, Denon just trying to break that slipstream. Is it going to be enough at the end of this long straight? Not quite for the Ford Mustang, but he's managing to stick with the Ferrari in the corners. Now we have another straight coming up after this tricky few set of corners. Will the Mustang of Fawzar Alim be able to get on the back of the Ferrari for the next few corners? It's very critical to get a clean exit out of this next few corners. Taking very wide line, looking to
for this straight.
He is, and we saw him take a little bit of a dive down the inside earlier on. He looks to be a bit too far back this time around. Maybe just biding his time, trying to recharge himself as he looks to make a lunge in the latter half of the lap. As we know, the Mustang doesn't seem as strong in the final sector of the lap as the Ferrari, but if he can keep piling on the pressure, if he can eke out some mistakes and make sure that Mustang stays within half a second, maybe quarter of a second of the Ferrari, he's going to be in a great position as he gets very, very close again to the back of that Ferrari. Will we see he seems once again close, but perhaps not close enough for this corner. But again, as we come back onto the main straight, he's going to be in another very commanding position to challenge for the overtake.
He's just biding his time at the moment, Sam. He has just over 6 minutes left. Maybe about 4 laps of racing remaining. When will he make this move? Crucial aspects of this 1 hour long race is to pick your points. Don't make your move at an incorrect moment. We saw him make a dive down the inside at the end of the first sector, and he just backed out in time to not cause a bigger collision. You can see another wider line by Fawzal to prepare himself for this next straight. He's just a little bit too far behind, because even with the extra power, he's not able to actually close right up. Will he go for a move down the inside. No, not this time round.
Denon Abiseko driving a very measured, very mature race. Great to see this kind of racing in our esports arena. Just managing to keep it on track, just managing to manage the pressure from behind, and that pressure is immense. His mirrors are full of Mustang right now. But yeah,
and it's not the Mustang you want to be seeing either. It is Fawzul Alim right behind him.
Exactly. So we're going to be on for a nail-biting finish here for 4th place. As we...
And Sam, look at this, Sam. Looking back, we have a return of Brian Pereira. We have Nuan, who's actually dropped off the pace massively, maybe being blocked by a lap car. And Brian Pereira down the inside.
Very
he jumps up into P6 from absolutely out of nowhere.
Yes, very opportunistic by Brian there, but he had to take that move when the opportunity presented it to himself, and he had to take it, and he's managed to get clear out in front of that Mustang. What is going on with the Mustang of Nuan?
Surely Nuan Harshina is suffering from an issue.
It looks like it. Was it that early pit stop? Is he having to do some major fuel saving right now? I don't know, but
he might be running out of tires, he might be running out of fuel. It could be a multitude of issues, or even potential damage we haven't seen.
Possibly.
Yeah. One thing's for sure though, Fawzul is much closer.
He's not going to do it right now, but he's going to take a wider line so that he gets a better exit out of this next few corners.
Switchback.
He just wants to...
Now the crucial thing here, Sam.
He just wants to hang... He just needs to hang on to the back. He just needs to hang on to the back of that Ferrari as he takes another very wide line.
Now, swooping line to switch back onto the back straight. He is very close this lap. Will he be able to outmuscle with that American muscle engine?
Pushing. It's going to be very, very close as he once again takes a very wide line. Denon has to take a much tighter line, which means that the Mustang will get a far better exit. I think he's just trying to pressure this Ferrari into into the last few corners of the lap, and he's done it.
Has he just done that?
He goes wide. The Ferrari has gone wide, but he's just managed to stay ahead. This is a thrilling battle, but this is going to be the important one. Who gets the better exit out of this final corner? And
there's
the Mustang,
contact.
And there's contact, and yeah, the Mustang just...
I don't believe that was Fawzul's fault there.
It definitely wasn't Fawzul's fault, in my opinion. Fawzul managed to force the error, basically. Denon Abiseko went a little bit wide and perhaps should have just kept going in a straight line. He tried to get back on track to defend the line a little bit too late, and there's a bit of contact, but nothing too serious, just rubbing of paint, rubbing of the doors. But that was one of the most thrilling battles, and you know, it wasn't very short. It wasn't short-lived. Great stuff by Denon Abiseko.
It was building up.
Pressure of Fawzul Alim. It was building up, and
it's been building up ever since the pit stops.
Absolutely, and Denon Abiseko was able to hold off the pressure from that very, very fast Mustang, and yeah, for many laps. But yeah, Fawzul Alim seems to have managed to get the well, it's back where it was in Silverstone. Fawzul Alim in 4th, Denon Abiseko in 5th.
Right back with the likes of Angela Senaratna. He's had a very, very quiet second half of the race. Same can be said for Savi Ratnayaka as well. Again, you can see RHC racing for both drivers, both a part of the same endurance team. However, no one has been able to catch this man up front. Nehanaranga absolutely flying with his SRL livery from Sim Racing Lanka. Nehanaranga has absolutely dominated, and he's gonna make it back-to-back victories unless the commentator's curse strikes again, which I sincerely hope it does not. Nehanaranga looks like he's on his way to secure yet another victory in the ACC Championship.
Absolutely. And what a commanding victory it would be. From lights out to the flag, if he manages to keep it on track for this next minute. It has been a ridiculous show of dominance by Nehanaranga. Definitely, he hasn't actually been challenged at any point during this race, I don't think, and that's purely because he hasn't been out in front. He's not been close to any other car. except for back markers, basically. Yeah.
Luckily for him,
really,
no back marker
really
has decided to take him out of the running.
Okay, the leader is on the final lap now. Give it all you can.
As we
So
hear
there we are.
the
We have
team
race
radio
control
of-
announcing exactly.
Yes, the
We
final
have the
lap of the
final lap
race has
announcement.
been started by Tehan Eranga. As this battle is still brewing. Denon and
Yeah.
Fausel still locked in battle. Denon maybe just running a little bit too wide. The tires may be fading away from him. But it's not over till
he's driving
the
that
lady
Ferrari.
sings.
He's driving that Ferrari for all that he can. He wants to get every last bit out of it. He needs to slot into the slipstream now. He needs to try and get up close, but that Mustang is just so fast in a straight line. It's very tough. His best chance is going to be, as we said, in the latter half of the lap. With the tight corners, if he can close up to the Mustang and perhaps slingshot him on one of the last couple of corners, that's going to be his best chance right now. But yeah, here we go.
We will have to ride on board with Tehan Eranga. As much as we'd like to follow the battle behind, Tehan Eranga is currently reaching the final sector. Oh, going a little bit wide. We will pay close attention to the battle for P4 between Fausel and Denon. However, here is the man of the hour. Untouchable today.
And
unbeatable.
literally,
Tehan Eranga comes around the final corner. And he wins in Misano. He makes it back-to-back ACC race at home race wins.
What a dominant drive from Tehan Eranga. Now back in second, we have Savi Ratnayaka in second place. Coming home and crossing the line, flashing his lights. Very good showing and much improvement from him for the second round from the first round. Right now we have Angelo Senaratne in third place. Looked to drop off in the second half of the race, but that is... I'm sure he's going to be happy with that. A podium for him.
There's a battle to the line here.
Doing with 4. There is a battle for the line. But Fawza Alim has it just at the finish.
Side by side.
So close. So
Over the
close.
line.
Denon Abesekwe giving it everything right up until the checkered flag. That's exactly what we like to see.
What a finish. 2 tenths apart. Brian Pereira.
And Kevan,
Has he run out of fuel?
he seems to be coasting. He's...
Oh, Nuan Harshana.
Oh.
Has Nuan
He just
Harshana run
ran-
out of fuel as well? Nirosh Yeshan.
Nope, Nuan
I
Harshana.
believe Nirosh Yeshan is also actually on the same lap as him. The 2 Ford Mustangs are actually fighting it out in the final corner for P7. Has Nuan run out of fuel though? Side by side to the line, who's gonna get it? It's just Nuan Harshana by a tenth of a second ahead of Nirosh Yeshan. What a fight to the finish line. As Nimesh Dean rounds out the top 10 with 10th place. We have Dinesh Patirana rounding the final corner to secure P12. So it's Tehan Eranga, the race winner, followed by Savi Ratnayaka, Angelo Senaratne, Fausal Alim, with 2 major incidents, still fighting back for P4. Denon Abesekra almost getting Fausal on the line with a P5. Brian Pereira with a heavily damaged car finishes P6. Nuan Harshana and Nirosh Yeshan making it a Ford Mustang for the finish with 7th and 8th. We have Shane Wirakun finishing off in P9, Nimish Dean rounding off the top 10.
What a brilliant race.
Now
And I
Sam.
think Kevan Samajiva managing to come home with the win in the AM class. And Dinesh Patharana in
Indeed.
second and Siyama Singh in third.
Now Sam, we will try to get the race winner, Tehan Eranga, for a small interview post-race. Hello Tehan, can you hear us? Hello Tehan, can you hear us?
Yes. Hello Sam, hello Tiago.
Wow, well done, Tehan Eranga. That you made it look easy from where we were sitting, but take us behind the cockpit. Was that as easy as it looked?
It was a relief, I would say, because in the first lap, Savi and Fausal made contact, so that took a lot of pressure off. So that was the thing that let me just concentrate on my laps. In the first stint, I just pushed as hard as I could to build a gap to Savi, and then in the second stint, it was just managing the tires and trying to just maintain the gap to Savi and just bring it home.
Well, and it what a brilliant race win that is for you, and 2 in a row now, winning Silverstone and now at Misano for the second lap. Talk us through the Ford Mustang's advantages. Now we were talking here in the commentary booth that the Mustang seemed to have a big advantage on the straights. Is that what you felt? And was it a bit harder in the corners? And
In a way, yes, because the Mustang, the best strength this has is the acceleration actually. So this will get up to its max speed very quickly. So that's where the biggest advantage is. And in the corners, yes, because this is a front engine car, it tends to understeer a lot. So we have to set it up in a way where it's a bit more oversteery. Then we have to sacrifice tire life a little bit. That's why in the Mustang, always at the first of the stint, we always push as much as we can, use up our tires, and in the second half of the stint, it's just about trying to do as best of a lap as we can and just
Green light,
hold
go,
it
go, go.
together.
oh wow! So that is some brilliant insight into how the race was won. And do you feel this was a tire limited race? Was it a fuel limited race? Were you having to manage the tires and fuel towards the end of the race, or was it
Uh,
fairly easy for you?
Fuel, no. Fuel, there was no issue. Tires, yes, because in the first stint, I actually made a few mistakes. I just pushed too hard, and in the end, Savi caught up like 2 seconds right before I went into the pits. So in the second stint, I didn't push as hard in the first few laps and tried to maintain the mid 34s for the race laps, and I was able to just continually do that. Savi still caught up about another 2 seconds in the second stint, but it was not really a big issue because I had the gap from the first stint.
So Tehan, I know you want to go celebrate with the rest of the drivers. You want to go celebrate this race win. Now heading into the third round, you are now the clear championship leader, making it back-to-back wins. How are you feeling about being the championship leader by a large margin, and how does this change your mindset going into the next couple races?
I mean, it's a relief actually, but I also have to keep in mind that I got really lucky because in Silverstone, Pauzul got a stop and go for exceeding the pit speed. Here, it was Savi and Pauzul making contact, and in Paul Ricard, I could get lucky, I could get unlucky, so I just have to stay to the ground and take it one race at a time. Try to do the best I can in Paul Ricard as well.
Awesome stuff, Tehan. We will let you go celebrate your win. Congratulations on the win, and see you tomorrow at iRacing.
Thank you, Thiago. Thank you, Sam.
Alright, Sam, after a thrilling ACC race, are you looking forward to tomorrow's F4 race on iRacing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. If it's anything like what we experienced last time out, it's going to be quite interesting. And of course, there we have several different races. We have the heat, we have the sprint race, we have the consolation race, and we have the main race. So yeah, 3 races to enjoy tomorrow, and we have some reverse grids as well to mix up the action. So plenty of potential for some thrills and spills, and of course those cars are far less forgiving than what we witnessed today. So again, a very, very different test of man and machine that we'll be witnessing tomorrow. So Thiago, what time will our viewers want to tune in if they want to experience that?
As of now, the stream will begin at relatively the same time as today, should I say. It should take place at 8:15 tomorrow. However, if there are any planned changes, it will be notified on the Ceylon Motorsports Club Instagram page.
Awesome. Well, then I think that's all for us to do. So I think we'll sign off for this.
Thank you very much for
this
joining me
very
here in the
interesting
commentary
round
box.
of Misano. Thank you, Thiago.
Oh, definitely. Alright, and until next time, or until tomorrow, should we say, Adios.